Picture this. We're in the Muskokas at the Deerhurst Resort. I was speaking to the team at Graybar Canada. All of a sudden, there it was, a frozen moment in time when the room was illuminated. I looked over and there was Rob Horst, the national sales manager with an incredible insight. And it was in that very moment that I knew that he was the one I had to get on my podcast. Rob talks all about choosing a path, hitting the wall, learning from it, brushing it off, getting up only to do it one more time, and so much more. This is Warren Barry, and I'm your host and the founder of Instinctive Solutions. Get ready to take a deep dive on my Better the Pond Pondcast with my special guest, Rob Horst. Mr. Rob Horst. So, working for Graybar Canada. Now I'm going to have to read this because you got quite the handle. So, National Sales Manager of Energy and Sustainability. I had to read that.
Yep.
I had met you we did a workshop out in the Muskokas in Ontario. You were the illustrious, genius, most inspirational person in that room to win the James Pond Award. And now here you are, a guest. I'm honored on the
No,
Better
no,
the
no.
Pond podcast. Rob Horst, this is absolutely fantastic to have you here.
Well, thank you very much, Warren. And I can't say enough about that introduction. Thank you. No, it's good to be here. Yeah, it was great meeting you up in the Muskokas. We had a nice session, a good day together. So glad to be here.
Yeah, no, it was a great day, and I will say before we get into this, there was, and I won't get into it, but there was a moment in time in that session where I just saw that look in your eye when like the light bulb came on, and right, and you got it, and it was one of those moments I live for. So again, thank you for being so engaged and being right there with me the whole time. And I saw that whole, I think actually your aha kind of lit up the room. Um, so anyway, I wanted to thank you
Yeah.
for that, and I'm really honored that you're here, and I really can't wait to have this conversation. So let's rock and roll, shall we?
You got it. Sounds great.
All right.
Thanks.
So before we get into you, tell my listeners here a little bit about Graybar, before I get into that, I just want to say that working with the organization is you have probably one of the an absolutely incredible culture of what you guys are doing in the organization. You're a large organization, so to do that, let's give some kudos off to Mr. Bill Jones and Jason Taylor. So we'll give them a shout out, right?
Yep, we
For
should.
help creating that culture. So I just want to say that the culture is amazing. You guys are a massive organization, really hard work to do. But so tell us a little bit about Graybar Canada and what
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Thanks. Yeah, Graybar Canada. We're a corporation and we're an electrical wholesaler, so we sell a lot of electrical products, whether or not we have multiple lines of business. So standard electrical, which would be switchboards and disconnects and those type of components that you'd think would go into large commercial and residential projects.
Hmm.
And then of course we have multiple lines of business too. So wire and cable, comm data, automation. I look after the renewable team. We have lighting divisions, and we're a coast to coast company that really works with local contractors and larger contractors just to try and better the infrastructure, better the electrical distribution across Canada. But yeah, really, it's just providing those core electrical products to either build infrastructure or commercial projects with our electrical contract partners. We're also a 100% employee-owned company, and that also goes for our parent company, Graybar, out of the U.S. So that really gives you a good core culture as well,
Hmm.
and a lot of pride in being an employee-owned company.
Yeah, that's awesome. Any organization that I've worked for or worked with, shall I say, that's been employee owned, it's it's a game changer.
Yeah, it really is. It just makes you proud to be here, and it just makes everybody feel like they have, of course, ownership, but more than that, the pride. To go out and whether or not it's help a customer at the counter if they're busy, or vice versa. If we just need to go that extra mile, it's pretty easy. Um, yeah, it's a lot of pride, and I think it's a really good thing too to be able to share with our customer partners
Mhm.
and also our manufacturer partners. Again, just for that one good reason is that we're out for the best of the company at all times. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And it shows.
yes, it
It shows.
does.
Yeah. It's right there. It's right there front and center. So you said
Yeah.
you're coast to coast. Just to give people, my listeners, it's a little bit of a perspective on how big Graybar, just even big Graybar Canada, I guess, we can just run with that is, how many divisions and how many offices you guys have?
Yeah, we're approximately 35 branches across the country. The vast majority are Atlantic Canada,
Mhm.
believe it or not, so east of Quebec. I believe we're around 24 branches there. Don't quote me, and I'm sure I might have that off by one or two, so I won't need to be told that by everybody. But and then in Ontario, we're 7 to 8 branches, and then as far as going out west, we have a branch in Calgary, Edmonton, and then a couple in the BC area, roughly around Vancouver. So,
Mhm.
about 35 branches. I mean that number, or sorry, yeah, about 35-ish branches, and yeah, we've been part of the Graybar family, which just in the U.S. we have just a massive amount of branches, so it's really good. Yeah, and then we have a large wire and cable warehouse out of the Vaughan area,
Mhm.
so we do a lot of wire and cable business as well to go along with some of these projects. And like I said, with the renewable division that I look after, my office just sits in central Ontario, so Kitchener. But again, we have people coast to coast on each side, so out east, out west, and they participate in the quoting and bidding of those kind of jobs. And we work with a lot of large EPCs to do those big construction projects, whether or not they'll be doing the projects, but if it's like a big solar farm or wind farm, battery storage, or many other variations of that, we'll provide again the electrical material to do those jobs and help coordinate on site. And having said that, Warren, sorry about all the branches, is we also have a company, Electromag, that joined the Graybar family a few years ago, and they're mainly predominant in Quebec. So yeah, so that gives us a good footprint in Quebec as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so I
Yeah,
was going to ask you just one more question just before we roll
sure.
into you. Just, going into your role as national sales manager, but of energy and sustainability. So is your
Yeah.
position all in that sort of like, is it wind farm, solar farm, that kind of, is that the realm that you're in, or?
Yeah. So I also have another part to my title that is not on your list. It's also regional. So Ontario Regional Sales Manager Utility. So that'd be the overhead wire and underground and the utility business. But my main focus is with my team is to do the wind, solar, battery storage, and EV infrastructure. We work with a few companies, manufacturers, and then other install partners to do some of the massive infrastructure that goes on with the EV as well. So yeah, kind of anything green, I guess, or Graybar blue, but anything green is something that we work on, and we're already focused on moving into the hydrogen lines of business too that are going on out east. So
Oh,
yeah,
really?
yeah. So a lot of the wind farms that are being developed out in the Atlantic region will partially help power the infrastructure needed for the hydrogen plants that are going to be built in the next couple of years. So
Oh, wow,
yeah,
that's interesting. Because I was going to ask you just about, the growth or the changes you've seen in the last 5 years, 10 years in
yeah.
this realm.
Warren, it's hard to say. So we proudly Graybar Canada. I joined. I'm kind of moving into the work history a little bit here, but I joined here in roughly 2009 is when I joined Graybar Canada.
Hmm.
And at that time, we were working with a couple companies and people that I knew that were doing development in the renewable energy business. And we were really seeing a breakout in Ontario with the government had a ton of money that they were putting into these infrastructure projects, mainly solar in Ontario. So at that time, we needed a way to participate in that. And Graybar of our infinite wisdom, we wrote up a business plan and rolled it out and became Graybar Energy. And that's where we started supplying the material from 2010 roughly to 2016 was just a massive amount of work going on in Ontario and the growth. And then our provincial government flipped over to the PCs, and we kind of slowed that down just because the Liberal money was the one really driving a lot of that business.
Mm-hmm.
And but then in the last 5 years, since just before COVID, started to see a massive amount of growth on these solar projects. And when I'm talking solar, I'm talking utility scale that could be, is up to 500 megawatts, and even larger now of power, which, is just a massive amount of land, of course. And we're seeing that growth out west for the solar, and now out east for wind. But Warren, it's just awesome. Like, it's just every day, there's something new to learn about the business. There's always different people joining in, but the base group of developers and the base group of us that have participated in it seem to still be around. So it's pretty fun business where we get to see each other often and just see that growth. Yeah. So
Love it. So
yeah,
as we know, the only thing that's going to stay the same is change.
that's right. It's just constant change. And, it's really fun business to be around. So.
Yeah, good for you. That's amazing. Thank you for that. So now let's get into that next piece. I want to get to know about Mr. Rob Horst. So this was the guy in the room that won the James Pond Award. This is the guy I want to talk to. So now let me preempt this. Now the question is, what got you from being a gosling? Now, I mean, where were you hatched? Where did you start life? Right? Where was your very humble beginnings?
All right.
Right. Two, when you left the nest. Now, when you left the nest, that's when you got out on your own, right? Now, either you were like kicked out, Rob, go away, right? You may have been nudged, right? You may have jumped out. Who knows? We're going to find out, right? When you went on your own and then to where you are today, Mr. Rob Horst, what is your backstory?
Wow. This could be intense, but let's do it.
Let's do it.
Well, it was a warm day on June 26, 1973. No, just
that's a good start.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no. So I was actually born in Kitchener back in early 70s. So I'm right back where I was, but this story will wrap around the world. But I was born in Kitchener back in 73 and born into a family that was really construction based, like commercial construction. So my grandfather had been working for Big Ball Brothers Construction, and my father worked there, and then with my uncle at his construction place. And then about 9 years later is when my father broke out on his own and started his own construction business. And that'll take you back to when you were kind of doing like a lot of the Tim Hortons and Burger King developments coast to coast. So a lot of franchisee type business. And he did that from coast to coast and worked on a lot of those franchisee build outs, with different franchise partners and stuff like that. So that was really interesting. So I grew up through that construction all the way into commercial construction where him and of course many others, they built the amusement park out in Calgary called Callaway Park. So yeah, just a smaller version of the one they have in Toronto there. And then he worked as well building out a lot of the buildings for RIM. So a lot of big commercial construction, or Blackberry, as you guys know them now.
Yeah.
So I grew up in that form of construction, and then I considered getting into the business. Of course, you work there when you're younger, and we had the home office that literally my bedroom connected to like the big area over the garage, which we called the bonus room. But that was where they did a lot of the office work in the evenings, because they were, it really was good in the sense that they were able to do a lot of their core work during the day at the office building. Come home, we'd be able to have what we'd consider a family dinner, much different for everybody. You never know how that goes per family, but and then they'd be able to work in the evenings up in their home office. So, so I saw that as part of the work ethic always growing up. So that was pretty good. And then as I was finishing high school, I wasn't too sure what I was going to do. I know I applied to universities. Can't remember if I didn't get accepted or chose to go to college, but I ended up going to college for a robotics and automation co-op program. And, so that was where I decided to go. And the neat part is being co-op is you get exposed to a lot of different things, of course. And I went down the road of more electrical kind of aspect of that. And now I'm working in electrical business. So those two connect. But yeah, I was doing a lot of electrical working for a couple of companies in town. And then one of them that I did some co-op work with was a company called ATS Automation. So they're a local large national automation company now. And I ended up going there and working there. Oh my goodness, Warren, I got to say, I think it was about 2006 or so when I left there. So from graduating high school in the early 90s to maybe 20 years or whatever that is, 10, 15. I think it was about 13 years of what I actually did.
Math is hard.
Yeah, math is hard today. Yeah. That's a small math problem. But yeah, so the cool part is though, yeah, growing up in the family businesses, you'd see with construction, and I'm sure a lot of people on here that listen understand like the waves that we go through economically, and whether that's due to a COVID thing or this or that. But in the 80s and that there was a bit of a slowdown at 1.2 in construction and stuff like that. So my dad was luckily able to step out for a little bit and then restart the company and go back in. Oh, wow. But anyways, yeah, when it came time to like, do you want to work here? Or, I'd like you to join us. It was like, you know what? I was really having a lot of fun learning about the robotics and doing that sort of stuff. So I decided to just stay on my own and take that path and go down that road. And that's where I went. So doing that work with the company I was with there it was really good. Is that I was electrical designer and programmer. And with that too, is when you're building automation like that, you're doing it as, first of all, as a big collaborative process, because you have the people building the equipment, wiring the equipment, designing it. And then of course you have the programmers on there too. And then when the job comes to an end, you travel around the world. And I was lucky enough to live in a few of the places too over the years, like Germany, and I was in England for quite a while, and Oregon, lived there and stuff. So I've been able to live in different places around the world, but end up coming back here. And how did I get to Graybar? Well, I was back here, excuse me. And, it was a lot of long hours and a lot of overtime and stuff like that. So I was looking for something, something that was very interesting and might align. And a good friend of mine who worked for another company mentioned Graybar Electric. So I said, okay, I'm interested in talking. So got an interview, came here and joined them as a salesperson out of the small Guelph branch. And then, just grew along with the company and came up with this idea for the renewables. And when I put it forth, that's when we started that group. So, yeah.
That was your idea?
Yeah, it was. I actually wrote up a business plan for that. Yeah.
Look
we had one of our VPs that was here, the way it was, I wrote up a business plan and they said, well, we've talked about this stuff before. Everybody wants to put all this material in stock and that. And I said, no. If you look at that business plan that I wrote, I'm like, we can just do it with the core material that we have now and just provide those electrical goods, which is known as balance of system in the electric or in the renewable thing. So if you're not selling the solar panels, which are at the time really, really market-driven pricing or commodity pricing, if we look at the way that power's gone throughout the years, back then 180 watt solar panel would be several $100s, and now a 400 or 500 watt solar panel is like $200 to $250 depending on who it is. So I mean, the price change is just dramatic. But my plan was like, no, let's not do that. Let's just sell the electrical stuff that we already carry, and just be more of a partner with our the end users or our customers. And that's when our VP, not jokingly, but we called up the president, and he thought it was a great idea. And next thing you know, we started that new company. And so, yeah, they had to go around and get the signatures from the board of directors in the U.S. and Graybar Energy was born.
So, all right. So there's a few things I want to unpack, but I just want to unpack that just a little bit. Well, just going back to, that when I met you in the Muskokas, I just want to think about this is just how naturally, when you were just you're just yourself, right? You're Rob Horst, you had a new idea and found a quick workaround solution to a problem.
Yes.
And you changed and you shifted course of a big company. So, right, you're one man on the ship, but helped steer the ship in a different direction.
Yes. And, you talk about culture, and it's really something that being where I am here is, and I see this happen constantly. We're I don't want to say we're making a shift now, but we're certainly, we know that markets are changing and we gotta steer with it. So really, I just knew that just by putting something together like that, and that your voice would be heard. So, I know it probably is more impressive than I think, but I really just felt like it was just, just sharing an idea on something. And that was, honestly, it was because of, like I said, coming out of the place that I was, there was a local company that was doing a lot of that solar design. I found that, well, we already have all that equipment to do that, but maybe we just put more of a focus on it because there's probably others out there looking for the same thing. So it really felt natural to me, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
That's my point.
Yeah. Thank you.
You just were, right? And
Yeah.
and good on the organization to listen, right? Because sometimes, well, yeah, it can be yeah, right? Come back later.
Yes.
But they actually listened. So, yeah, I think it's just really cool that, just I wanted to share it because the power of one man with an idea, right,
Yes.
can turn a ship.
And I'm really lucky, Warren, is like I think back and I knew we were talking today. And one of the things that I really thought of was like I'm lucky that I grew up around strong leaders all my life, or been around that, like with my parents in the business. So seeing that, and of course growing up in that situation, you really learn that they're just people. They're just making decisions. They're just doing what they do.
Yeah.
And then going to the company ATS, which is a massive company as well, and being able to work with, again, strong leaders. But seeing that strong leaders usually do respect an opinion.
Hmm.
And I always think, at least in my opinion, that a good strong leader is going to listen to everybody and take a little bit of those pieces,
Hmm.
and move forward. Because if you're not moving forward, like you said, you can't sit still,
If you're
especially in businesses that are technically driven, right?
For sure, yeah, you're not growing, you're dying.
You're not growing, you're dying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Um, that's very cool. So let me take you. I'd like to take you back on a couple pieces, Rob. Just some things that you mentioned. Um, so there's two things around sort of growing up. So one of the things that I wrote down here, and I think it's interesting, and it's something that I've been talking about lately. You talked about family dinner. Now, growing up. So first of all, how many? So mom and dad, how many siblings in your family? How many kids?
Just a brother and myself, older brother in the house and myself. So just the two
Did he
siblings.
did he beat you up, or did you beat
Uh,
him up?
if I tell the truth, he'd be mad. But let's just say, yeah, there was a lot of fights.
Okay, that's okay. That's all I want to know. So you and an older brother, mom and dad.
Yep.
So you had growing up in the era that you did, so in the 70s, right? Growing up, was family dinner sort of a mandatory? Was that not a mandatory, but was that a thing that you did?
Um, yes, it was a thing that we did. Was it mandatory? It was attempted to be as much as we could all the time. But Warren, with my dad and his business, if he was in town, so doing work in town, then it was rare that he wouldn't be there. It might be that we're eating at 6 every day or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but we're eating together. Um, it was the only times would be if he's traveling for work. Like I mentioned, there was Calgary and other places, but
Sure.
yeah, in those cases, no. Then we were living like that other TV show, Wait Until Your Father Gets Home, which was kept us more on the straight and narrow because we were a little nervous back then. But no, yeah, we tried to keep it together as a family. Yeah. So, and then yeah, and growing up in the 70s, of course, just like the usual, and like people do now, living out of the cars and going to sports on the weekend and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, the reason I bring it up is that we were just having this conversation. So I'm glad that you mentioned family dinner because I mean I look at nowadays, and I mean I lived it too with my kids. Is like family. We tried the best we could for family dinner, but I look at the nowadays of family, and it's like okay, well we got to get your son off to hockey, and she's got to go to gymnastics, and he's got to go to baseball, and he's got right, and I
Yeah.
mean that's where the fast all the buildings that your dad built are doing very well. Right? Because it's like here, just go stuff you some food in your face and let's go. And everything is just so busy that the family unit, it's hard for them to sit down and actually have those conversations and the connections and
Yes.
right the bonding that in my opinion that the family really needs. But it gets just
Yeah,
so splayed out because everyone's just so busy doing everything. So
it is busier times. It's definitely different times, as we can all say. But yeah, I mean, I was also lucky enough to grow up on a crescent of all places.
ah,
So it was quite funny is that you'd come home from school, and of course, no technology at that time. I mean, I believe my one neighbor had a ColecoVision, which was pretty
ooh,
advanced.
he was popular.
It was like 12-bit technology or 16-bit technology. But yeah, so it'd be coming home and just playing as a group and that, and then everybody would get called in for dinner, and you'd go in, you'd sit down, and again, the only thing you could focus on is either shoveling the food in or answering the questions your parents, like and talking as a family, and then jumping back out and going back out for social time. But yeah, you're right though. It seemed like dinners were a lot more focused back then, but
Yeah.
who knows?
I mean, yeah. And make sure that you come home when the streetlights came on.
That's right. It was
Yep.
awesome. Street lights come on. I was like,
Ah,
sometimes you can get away with an extra 10 or 20 minutes, but yeah.
you didn't push limits at all, I'm sure, Rob.
Oh, no.
Um, um, so the next question I have for you is what I find interesting, and you're talking about your grandfather was in the construction business. Your dad, obviously, he went out and he was so went out being entrepreneurial and did a
Yep.
ran his own business. How difficult was it for you not to go into that business? I mean, it would seem like the logical sequence of events.
It would seem like a logical sequence of events. And, I can't really put my thumb on what happened at the time. Um, but when I got into this schooling stuff, it was slow at that time.
Mhm.
So I got into this co-op program and doing that. And then as I was just kind of finishing it up, unfortunately, my father got ill with cancer and he passed
Oh,
away at a very young 52.
oh, I'm sorry.
So yeah, so at that time there was talk about going into the business, and I just think I felt like I was on my own path, and that maybe because I hadn't spent it, I did spend quite a bit of time during the summers and of course and stuff like that working in that line of business. And my brother is or became an electrician and now works for as an inspector. But I think I felt at that time that I didn't have the experience to really go into that, and I didn't want to be the kid that just walks in because they can. So I felt like I was already on my path, which was in the automation, and I really liked it. I did like that. Your work, as I said, working with a big group like that, and I like the technical problem solving.
Mm,
Not that, trust me, I know construction nowadays is very technical as well,
yeah.
but I really just liked that I was learning constantly. So
Mm.
so I guess it wasn't difficult for me. I look back now and I do wonder how or why I didn't go into that area, but yeah, at the time it just felt natural, just rolling down my own path.
Mm, good for you. Look at
Yeah.
that. There's a guy, he got new ideas, got to create his own path. He's got new ideas. He changes the course of a company. I see there's a trend. So I got one more question before we move on.
Sure.
So your dad was in construction. Your brother beat you up. What your
Yeah.
mom was your mom? I'm gonna make an assumption here, completely an assumption.
Good.
Mom was home, and mom helped with the books and the accounting and all the stuff like that to help keep the business going in the background.
Yes and no, Warren. She was
Okay.
home. Yeah, she was home, keeping us going. She did help with the books, but she actually also then, as we got a little bit older, she got really into. She is a great artist. She does a lot of like watercolor painting and that. And we never tried doing a subdivision before, but then when we tried to do, not tried, we did build a large subdivision. We built a lot of homes, custom homes,
Hmm.
as a company. And she actually did the designs for those homes and then had an engineer stamp them. But yeah, so she did all the layouts, designs, the elevation drawings that you'd see when you go into a model home sales office and those kind of things for the company. And so she was heavily involved in a lot of that stuff as well, plus all the books.
Ooh,
Yeah. So
wow.
so yeah, so I also come from like an artistic side of a family, which I also carry through a bit of. So yeah.
You're kind of a big deal. So
I'm just me, man. That's it.
so one last question for you
Yeah.
is looking back, what is the sort of number one lesson that your dad taught you that really stuck with you?
There's there's two things that I've learned, and it goes for both of the main people and nowadays where I am, but of course, just a work ethic, right? Like, and I don't mean, a long hours or anything like that. I literally mean the part of just get up and do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you don't get up and try, failure's guaranteed, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's all I mean by that. Like, people don't like the old days of where we'd work well past 5 p.m. and stuff like that. It's like, I kind of agree with that old work smarter, not harder, but let's go with part A, which is just get up and give it a try and see where you go. So that's one big thing. And then number two is like when you're having problems in that and you sit down and you sort through those issues and that, my belief that I learned from a lot of the leaders that I work with previously and today is like make that path, choose the path, know where you want to go and start down that path. And if you start hitting stuff that could bump you off the walls and that sort of thing, it's like, don't just make a rash decision and change, what you're trying to do to accomplish. Just keep going until you hit the wall. Once you hit the wall, you're going to learn a few more lessons and then you can redirect. That's just the way I think.
Hmm. I love it. That's great.
Yeah.
That's a nugget right there.
Yeah. Yeah. I always think, yeah, just follow the path until you hit the wall. But at that point, you can sit back, regroup, and make a turn. If you're turning halfway through in that, you're never really going to learn the actual lesson,
Right.
So.
Yep. No, that's great. That's great. Going back, was there anything that from your mom that you walked away with as a lesson that she taught you in your life?
Yeah. Eat all your vegetables or go to bed early. No, honestly, oh yeah, she's still a strong woman in that, and she just put it this way, I've learned from her that again, perseverance. She's got that characteristic,
Mhm.
and that's just from the way she grew up. And I just see it all the time. Like she'll just keep trying and trying and that and she's just another person that likes to also try new things and explore new things. So
Mhm.
I think that's also what gives me the interest to like really just kind of always try and keep learning and digging into stuff. So yeah, so it's just some good characteristics. Yeah, they're a good match, or they were a good match. So
Yeah, apparently.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure you gave them their challenges, but they were good. But they
Oh,
bonded, right? Just to they had to hold it all together.
yeah, no, it was good. It was a good family home. So yeah, yeah, I got lucky there. So
Good. So,
yeah,
next question for you is, what is the number one thing, the biggest thing? Now, this can be positive or negative, right?
yep.
That's happened to you that's ruffled your feathers. That was a big challenge, and how did you respond to it, Rob?
It ruffled my feathers. Maybe it's hard to say, Warren, a real specific time, but I think like I said, back in the late 2000s when I finally moved back here, and just realizing that I'd done a lot of traveling around the world with the companies that I've been with and stuff, and just realizing that come home and be around the people that you grew up with, that I guess that you love and care about, and just wanted to be there for that. And also at that time, it was focusing a little less on the overtime and those kind of things, and just trying to get the weekends back to, which were really um, I was doing a lot of overtime like that. So I guess that would be the time when I realized I needed a change. And I was just lucky enough to have a friend to point me in the direction to come here.
Hmm.
And it's not that we don't work long hours, and it's not that we don't get calls or texts on the weekend, but it's certainly provided a little more core structure to my time. So yeah.
So, dig into this a little bit deeper. Was there any time, Rob, that you talked earlier about, perseverance, right, and going until you hit the wall, and that's where you learn the lessons.
Mhm.
Where was the time when you actually hit the wall, and how hard did you hit it?
We're keeping this clean, right?
Uh, this is this is conversation, so.
Yeah, you ask a good question about hitting the wall, and I just think it's a mental wall for me when it's not about the plans or that, but it's just like the realization. Honestly, is like, what am I doing? Like, this is life. And I got to a point where I was like feeling like, hey, I'm missing out on part of life, which is, although you get to travel all over the place and do all these great things, I really felt like when you're away like that, you're either working or you're sleeping, or you might see one or two things. But it was like, maybe there's a lot more life, and that was trying to get back and do that. From a work point of view, we hit it a lot when you're doing like a big automation project, or even like starting these kind of like different areas of business, but putting together those kind of business plans. And with automation is, you're trying to get through a process, and whether that's increasing cycle times or just trying to develop a new product, which I was lucky enough to be part of that at ATS too, is in initial product development group. So just trying all these new things, and then you'd realize why didn't it work, or what happened, and then going back and redoing it that way. But yeah, personal walls would just be like just needing to regroup and get back to who you want to be, right?
If you were going to look back in time and give yourself a piece of advice from what you know now to what you knew then, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
Probably buy Apple stock in 1989. You know what? The piece of advice, Warren, sorry, I know
Okay.
we're not, this isn't Bill and Ted's excellent. The piece of advice, honestly, is, it's enjoy the ride. I think for myself, though, is there probably would have been a couple times where I'd say, you know what, maybe start your own thing,
Mm.
because I really, I love working where I am, and I love doing what I'm doing. But looking back, it's like, it would have been fun to maybe try to start my own thing at some point and just see where that goes.
Mhm.
But yeah, the biggest piece of advice truly is just enjoy it and just keep trying. I don't know. As corny as that sounds,
It's not corny at
like
all.
I don't have a ton of regrets from a business side of life,
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, it was probably, I love doing all the travel and stuff like that, as I mentioned a couple times, but it didn't slow down enough to even to
Mhm.
maybe start a family when I should have. So yeah,
Yeah.
so there's,
It is interesting though because and then, I don't think it sounds corny at all. I think it's great advice, especially for younger people because I look at my kids. I mean, you can turn around and life can pass you by in an awful hurry, and you're so busy doing whatever that I mean, it is the cliche, stop and smell the roses, but right, we only got one shot of this.
that's the thing. I'm with you. Like, it does sound like a cliche, but you know what? It's fun picking yourself up too. Like like when you and it really is a true thing. Like when people you have a hard time and you hit a wall, whether it's a personal anything, the fun part is when you pick up and you realize how much you learn from it and how
Mhm.
much better you feel because you try again, right? So just keep on going. So I don't know. I think life's kind of fun, to be honest.
I'm with you, right? If you're not living life on the edge, you're taking up too much space.
Yeah, I've heard that one too. Yeah.
So, all right, let's get into this. And so, as
Sure.
you know, now you're a resident gooseologist, right? The geese do fly with 71% more efficiency when flying in a V formation than flying solo.
Yes.
You're now in a leadership role and you've spent some time in business. What do you think that the secret is to getting a team of people flying in V formation?
I'm not going to say I'm the best at it, but the communication of the goals for everybody is really key. And with my team, it's really nice right now is that, like I've mentioned, the different lines of business that Graybar has, but then specifically my certain group has these different lines. So what I do is I try and like give each one of them more or less one of those lines of business to become more of a resident expert in. And then they can share the lead once in a while as we have different project requests that come in so that we can get them more involved and a bigger part of the group. I mean, we do fly in a V together, but we do that change as you should, of who's leading at a time, and I always believe like a good leader should be able to get the people empowered to what they need to do or not need to do, what they're capable of doing and what they want to do. I mean, a really good thing that I learned years and years and years ago is when I'd go around, and I've worked at a few companies, not a lot, but a few companies. And I do remember at one point hearing people say, because I mentioned that I traveled and lived in different areas for certain companies. And I did hear a couple of times where people are like, well, they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. Why are you helping them out? It's like my theory, Warren, and I'll live and die on this, is that people can only work to the level they're trained. So if anybody ever wants to complain about they don't know what they're doing, then try giving them some training, and let's up that level so that the expectations can move together at the same time. But if we're not given the training, and in this case, even giving them the respect or the ability to learn and do the things that they could be good at, the capabilities they have, then it's really hard to look back and say there's a problem. That's just a theory of mine. So
No, that's great. What was going through my head was as you were talking, and I heard you say it was empowering people, right, to be able to take the lead, to be that lead goose as we go through whatever we're going through. I mean, there's going to be business cycles,
yep.
there's new products, there's ups, there's downs, there's turns, there's storms, there's all the things that happen, right? And empowering those people to say, who's gonna lead this piece, who's gonna lead that piece, right?
Yeah, and I like the empowerment part too, in the sense that as you and I, and we all work in different business sectors and our leaders, it's nice to see the growth in people, first of all, but you know what? I never want to worry that if I get injured or hurt or that everything's going to fail. I want to make sure that we're giving the knowledge and passing it through, and that people can step up when they're ready to. So it's great.
Yeah, one of the things I also heard you say, and just reminds me of, when somebody says, as a leader, you say, well, they don't know what they're doing, they don't know what they're doing, they don't know what they're doing. Where's the first place you should look?
Yep.
You
In the
look
mirror or
in the
point
mirror.
inside. That's right. Yeah. So that's why, yeah, I just fully believe in, like, of course, nobody knows what they're doing, but you got to give them the tools to get there and teach
Right.
them. We all started somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, so, that's the thing is that, are you expecting everyone to be a genius about everything, right?
Yeah.
Right. If you
Yeah.
are, then that's going to lead to a pretty big disappointment.
And I don't want to reverse the interview. So someday you and I'll talk, but, just reversing on where, you've come from, but it's just I've come from different facets in my life, and hiccup there, sorry. And yeah, with all those different changes and different things, you're always learning.
Mhm.
And if I wasn't, I don't think I'd be able to do this or any job for that matter. I just enjoy that. So yeah, so it really is empowerment. And you're right. It's looking at yourself, or that is the one that's got to give the tools. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I believe, also one of my thoughts is, always fail forward.
fail forward. Yeah,
Yeah. So
I like it.
awesome. All right. So here's my next question. So thank you for that. Yeah, I'm going to see where this is going to go. I think it's going to be interesting. So Rob Horst, what are you doing to better the pond? What ripples are you creating out there in the world?
Oh boy. This one, Warren, this one's a tough one to answer, I guess. I don't trying to think, what ripples am I creating, eh? So
Yep.
meaning not, I just try to say not a lot, but here we go.
I'll
Yeah.
challenge you on that one.
No, exactly. Honestly, is doing what we do a lot of, like, for work, it's really good, is that we are so embedded with our customers and that. And what I like to think of is that um, as a sales organization, everybody can sell electrical, and Graybar knows that. And we have competition and stuff like that. And I have competition in what I do, but I'm a firm believer in just like searching for the problem with our customers. And trust me, if you just ask the question, you'll usually get an answer, and just trying to work together on what we can do to make that better. Um, we got into this side of our business for the energy side, and like I said, it was just a hope and a prayer, and we started doing some work. But working on a lot of these jobs, we really found different areas where we could give improvements, whether that be how we deliver to a project, how we prepare for it, and stuff like that. We do it. I always think it's just fun because we are very innovative. So, I like to think that some of the times people are trying to catch up to us,
Mm.
and that we're coming up with some of the ideas, which don't want to share too many of the secret sauce things, but we'll come up with some of the ideas and ways to better serve our customers and work together. And for us too, I tell you what, Warren, as much as people think that sales, you can just go online and look at Amazon or look at this and that. A lot of sales is still really customer driven, and that's what ours is. It's so customer driven, and it's knowing that you can be that reliable person or group that's going to come up with the right ideas and get everything done, et cetera, et cetera. So those aren't big ripples. Those are just, small rings.
Wait, here's the funny thing, right? As you drop a pebble in the pond, right? You have
Yeah.
no idea how far those ripples go out. I mean, right? So
Yeah.
by doing one simple thing can have a massive effect at the other end. And again, I'm going to just go back to saying you had an idea, right, about right, and about let's go into renewable. Let's not go into solar panels. Let's sell something that we already sell. Blah blah blah. That was just an idea, but just think about that was one pebble you dropped in the pond.
Yes.
What ripples did that create?
Yeah. No, that's a great example. Yes. Yeah, and it's got us to be a really top line sustainable partner for a lot of people.
And how many people did that affect?
Yeah. Countless. Yeah. It's great.
You dropped one pebble.
Hey, you're good, man. That's a nice analogy. No, it's fun what we do, is and everybody can relate to this right now for what we're going through, and like I'm not talking political or anything like that, but we are going through a massive energy transition in the world,
Hmm.
just because more energy is being consumed. So it's like I said, not political or that. So it's really fun is that we like to be at the front end of a lot of those discussions as a company and just understand where we see that going, and then how can we participate in it, whether it might be some kind of new technology, and just working with the company on that side. We're helping. I know we're not sitting there with designs and stuff, but we're in the conversations and maybe providing the right materials and offering our sales techniques and advice that way, or whether it is building out these big projects and just working together to come up with ideas of like, how can we help save costs for our partners when they're doing that part of the project? Because at the end of the day, if we can help keep that lower, hopefully there's no major increases to our bills at the end of the day. So
Well, sure, right.
it's a fun business to be in, and yeah, so those kind of those aren't maybe the ripples. That's really when you jump right into the middle and you just splash up and hope it doesn't land back on you.
But it'll be fun to find out.
Yeah. So yeah, every day is pretty fun in this type of business, and just yeah, it's good. A lot of partners on both sides. So
Yeah, awesome. I was going to ask, and I did not. I got to be honest. I did not do my homework. Is there work that Graybar is doing, sort of on a community standpoint, helping out like community organizations, that kind of stuff?
absolutely, yeah. Whether we participate with like Habitat for Humanity, we work with the TELUS. A charity group as well, and so it's fun whenever we do some of our large work events, which actually you were at one of our ones for the Ontario regional sales managers meetings, and we do a couple of those a year, but we always tie in with our vendor partners at some of those events that we're going to do a charity thing, whether or not it's putting together packages for children or homeless or that. So yeah, we're constantly supporting charities, and each of our branches generally are tied in with their
Mm.
local type of things too. It's really cool, like I said, with roughly 25 branches out in the Atlantic area, and then with the branches across the country. You'd be hard pressed not to find one of those individual branches that has charities. And then as a company and corporation, we have national charities that we do, regional charities. And yeah, we're really, really big in giving back to the community. So it's a good culture that way. Like our people culture is something to be really proud of, and it's something that keeps a lot of us here, and just it's nice to see, it's good alignment across the country.
Perfect. Alignment. There's a good word. And which we actually talked about in my keynote. That was all about alignment.
Hey, I knew I could find a way to get that in there.
There is.
No, I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. Sorry. It is good alignment though. It's the truth. Yeah.
And you're not just creating ripples. I think you're making waves.
Yeah. Thanks.
So it's fantastic. And I just wanted to, really thinking, even the listeners thinking about, you got one branch who's helping Habitat for Humanity or helping TELUS or helping, but, and homeless, like all those things all ripple out. They all keep going, right? But then it all comes back in, and it's so powerful when you can get that moving.
Yeah, no, it's so true. It's really nice. There's so many other companies that are similar to us in the structure that we are local to our communities. And I just like that. It's not like we have to sit around and make this as a brand message for our company. It's what the people want to do. We all want to be part of our communities. And I think it's nice to be around a company like that where we're as individuals and corporation, we just feel like we want to reach out and help everybody. So yeah, not everybody, but do what we can.
Do what you can. But I mean, that's the difference. I look at your culture is, do you have to, or do you get to?
Yeah, we get to, and that's the honor is we get to. And outside of work hours, we're also all, like, not all, but we're participating in many things. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, awesome, love it. All right, my last question for you, Rob, is, and you kind of alluded to this earlier, but I'm going to say, what's one lesson that you've learned that you would share with an entrepreneur starting a business today? And the reason I'm sort of asking this, I'm going to position this, as you mentioned earlier, said, if I went back to my younger self, what if I would have? And, kind of weave it back into that space of, if you were, talking to a younger person today and they were saying, you know what, I'm kind of thinking about, going into a business, what advice would you give them?
Well, I mean, a lot of people hear this one, and I didn't as much when I was younger, but it's just try it, Sometimes, and I think, Warren, a little bit about my personality, and I can get stuck in a rut of thinking and maybe sometimes overthinking, I'll admit it, instead of, like, you know what, when you got that idea, write it down and just take a step forward and see what happens, and then take the next step and see what happens. But without trying, you're not going to learn anything, and failure is okay when it's in any business and in any role. Failure's it's just part of the learning process. And if it takes once, twice, 3 times, well, you're lucky, because a lot of times it's going to take 4, 5, 6, 7, So just keep going and trying,
Fail forward.
Fail forward, and it's fun too, I'm a believer in the classic sense too, of, like, try something first and then talk about it, but find people that you can talk about it too, like that are, like-minded, that might want to do it. And, maybe it's someone your age, maybe it's someone older or younger, but you know what? It's kind of fun. There's a lot of people out there that are willing to talk and help people, just learn about business.
Well, that's an interesting thing. So, I mean, this obviously is going to sound like a bit of a plug, but it's not meant to. But I mean, that's where I met Bill, and that's where I met Jason, and they both belong to a group with Tech Canada, which I'm also a member as well, right? So having that peer advisory group and having those people around you, to either bounce ideas off, or basically, or tell you you're an idiot, or do I deserve to try to push you, whatever it is. But you've always got that, that other voice and those people around you as you make your way through.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, and it's great. Yeah, like you just mentioned, the tech group, and there's so many great groups like that are just like-minded people. Yeah. No, it's really fun. It's fun. I a lot of my friends have successful businesses as well, and it's neat. And I give a lot of respect to anybody that just gives it a try. I also give a lot of respect to those that want to just, do the work as well. Like, you
Sure.
know, we're a great company, and yeah, my last plug for Graybar is we're always looking for good people too.
There you go. Perfect. Right.
No, but
We'll make
yeah,
we'll make a note of that.
no, and yeah, it's great. Just get out there and try. That's my thing.
Got it. So I think you might just answer the next question. It's my final question, I promise. Is if you were standing on top of a mountain, Rob,
Yep.
and the whole world was listening, intently listening to you, what would you say?
Well, first of all, I'd probably scream like a banshee because I'd want to hear the echoes. That's kind of the coolest part.
So first, have fun.
First, yeah. Well, there you go. Have fun. And you know what? That's probably part of what I'd say. Enjoy the journey. It truly is a journey, and just enjoy it. And more than anything, take time for yourself too. That's important. And when I say take time for yourself, that includes like family and friends and that. It's good to clear your head and regroup once in a while too. But enjoy the journey and take the first step.
There we go. There's wisdom from the sage, wise Rob Horst.
That felt
So
good. Yeah.
so just listening to you, it's interesting. I was going back and sort of running through the conversation today, and I look at the things, like you said, you look from your dad, which was, work ethic, perseverance, right? Give it a go, as well as, your mom's side of like, to take on a challenge, try something new, be innovative, right? I mean, I
Yeah.
look at her artwork, and I think you take those sort of two pieces together, right? And I think there's a really nice Rob Horst package that you get to sort of carry that on, and you're sort of that blend of both.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. No, yeah, like definitely the creativity side is in there, and yeah, hopefully the work ethic, not hopefully, it is there. So,
It is there.
yeah, no, it's a good blend. It's a great, yeah, a great blend, and it works for me.
And you're the most important person you know.
Hey, the one thing I learned from working alongside you with that day is, like, yeah, we all have those innate characteristics and stuff like that. And when I look at the way that it came out and our discussions, is I really do feel like I can see both those sides in what I do and how I ended up. So it's
Yeah.
good.
And thank you for just being yourself. Thank you for being authentic.
Thank you. Really good discussion, Warren.
Absolutely. So there you have it, right? The Pondcast. I think it's gonna be the Pondcast of 2025, right here with Rob Horst.
Oh yeah,
I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your stories. I want to thank you for just being who you are. If anybody wants to do two things, number one wants to reach out to you and say, "Hey, this is a really cool guy. I want to talk to Rob," which you are a cool guy.
thanks.
Or if you're looking for people, right, and they say, I'm interested. Hey, I'm interested in electrical. I'm interested in what Graybar is doing. How would they find you, Rob?
I mean, the best way would be via LinkedIn. Is going on LinkedIn and sending a message. You can find me on there, Rob Horst, and the work email, which I don't know if we put up anywhere, but reach out to Graybar Canada and ask for Rob Horst, and they'll direct you to me.
Do you want me to put your email address in the show notes?
That'd be great. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we'll put your LinkedIn in there. We'll put in the Gray Bar website, and then we'll put in your email address as well. So if anybody says, "Hey, you know what? I'm looking for something," then they come right to you.
yeah. No, that'd be great, Warren. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
whatever we can do, right?
Hey, I
We're
love
better
it.
together.
We always are. No, it's good. Teamwork makes the dream work.
There
Oh,
it
I
is.
can't end with that really cheesy
Yeah,
one.
don't end up that cheesy line.
No, it's good. It's fun.
So how about I'll end with this? So this is Warren Berry, right? I'm flocking off to take you beyond the pond to better the pond because we're better together. Thank you so much, Rob.
Thanks, Warren. Have a great day.
You too.